what I would like to do is not just speak at you, but speak with you later on as a fellow European citizen. Yes, there are some differences occasionally, but at the end of the day, we are one European family. We are in it together, and we have to do our bit to see us through this crisis. Actually, I would like to start with a comment on the title. In my view, resolving the crisis in Europe is a bit misleading. For this crisis did not originate in the Eurozone. It erupted in the United States of America. I'm not saying this to dodge the issue, but the crisis has hit us so hard because of our own colossal failings. But it is important to recall that it has roots and ramifications that extend far beyond Europe. And it is not the currency of the common crisis of the common currency per se. The United States is what economists call an optimum currency area. And yet, it has been the epicenter of the financial and economic turmoil that has come to engulf us. What triggered the tsunami was a series of policy failures inspired by a free market ideology that allowed the financial services sector to decouple itself from the real economy and take on a life of its own. But apportioning blame and looking back offer neither relief nor recovery. So how do we resolve the crisis? The Chinese character for crisis denotes both danger and opportunity. I will focus less on the perils and more on the opportunities of the crisis, for a simple reason. A reason, incidentally, that might chime with Irish mentality. According to an Irish weatherman, and I quote, "Irish people have a tendency towards irrational optimism. Maybe if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to live in this country and stay sane." End of quote. As I see it, irrational optimism is just the kind of attitude it takes to stay sane in this tsunami-like crisis. So here then are my 5 points of irrational but hopefully warranted optimism. Point number 1. This crisis offers an opportunity to put the euro and our economies in order. The crisis has laid bare deficiencies of the eurozone construction, and it has revealed the ruinous effects of too much public and private debt, too little competitiveness, and too much financial alchemy in an under-regulated financial sector. Now is the time to tackle these sources of the current crisis, and to do so in a way that ensures lasting success rather than just short-term relief. Our European neighbors can rest assured that Germany will provide the needed support. Because, and this takes me to point number 2, Germany needs Europe. Ours is the country with most neighbors in Europe. Our prosperity depends on prosperous European neighbors. 40% of German exports go to the Eurozone. 60% of German exports go to the EU as a whole. And Germany stands behind the euro. Chancellor Merkel has said repeatedly, Europe fails if the euro fails. So the government is acutely aware of what is at stake. And not just the German government. All major legislation on measures to stabilize the eurozone have been passed with opposition support in the Bundestag. Yes, popular support for the euro has declined, even in Germany, but still only a minority of Germans favor going back to the D-Mark. We are where we are and where we want to be, a nation-state in Europe whose peace, prosperity and democratic stability is linked forever to the peace, prosperity and democratic stability of our European neighbors. But this is true for all of us in Europe, which is why, point number 3, Europe needs Germany. Ours is the strongest economy in Europe. With economic strength comes political power. And this power needs to be exercised with care and regard to historical sensitivities. It is true, even in the European Union, some are more equal than others. But Germany is not too strong for Europe. How can a country call the shots in an EU where national power is diluted by the European Commission and the European Parliament and by majority voting? And why should Germany be so foolish to aspire ruling Europe if any such attempt would run aground by counter-alliance building? Instead, Germany knows that, point number 4, Europe needs solidarity. Popular support for Europe hinges on people's perception that Europe delivers peace and prosperity, social inclusion, and political participation. And the euro is an essential means to all of these ends. The crisis has shown that the euro requires more joint decision-making and common oversight. Such a more integrated eurozone must rest on mutual trust and solidarity. But sufficient solidarity will be lacking if it is a one-way street. Therefore, point number 5, solidarity needs reciprocity. It takes 2 to tango. I do not know if there is a dance that takes 17 to perform. But for the Eurozone, the message is simple. We are in it together, and we must all do our national bit for it together. Therefore, solidarity needs reciprocity. Since even Germany's capacity to help is not infinite, it must not be overstretched. The mutualization of debt in the form of Eurobonds, for example, could easily lead to a drastic downgrading of Germany's AAA status, which would help no one but harm everyone. And Germany must not be overburdened politically either. Today, Germany is the anchor of the Eurozone and the major creditor country. Put yourself in our shoes. Just like us. You would want to minimize the risk of losing taxpayers' money, wouldn't you? Just like us, you would insist on conditions to minimize this risk, wouldn't you? And just like us, you would want to see sustained efforts to tackle excessive debt and economic underperformance, wouldn't you? For if you weren't doing this, you would risk not only losing taxpayers' money, but losing taxpayers' support. Germany neither wants to be, nor can be the permanent rescuer of last resort in the Eurozone. We need thriving, rather than struggling trading partners. We need neighbors with money to spend on German imports. But this money must be earned rather than borrowed. A major cause of the present crisis has been credit-fueled spending and short-term profit maximizing. The houses of cards have collapsed. The challenge now is twofold. First, to provide short-term relief for struggling Eurozone partners. This has been done and will continue through financial and technical assistance on the part of member states and the European Central Bank. An ECB that has intervened in unorthodox ways and on a scale unforeseen only a short while ago. The second task is to use this short-term assistance for long-term stability and prosperity. At the European level, we must put our common currency on a firm foundation of closer coordination and supervision, as well as tighter rules and better rule enforcement. At the national level, member states must do their own bit. Sound public finances have to be restored or maintained. Economic competitiveness has to be regained or sustained. The banking sector has to be stabilized and geared to serve the real economy. All of these tasks are not ends in themselves, but means to an end. And this end is sustainable and socially inclusive prosperity. The crisis has put our European social model under severe strain. Strain exerted by technological change, by globalization, and the emergence of new powers, of economic and political prowess. But while globalization poses problems, it also presents huge opportunities. In developing countries, it has lifted millions of people out of poverty, and in our part of the world, It has boosted prosperity through increased trade and cheap imports. We neither can nor should aspire to insulate us from globalization. Even a united Europe could not retreat on an island of the blessed. It could retreat inside a protectionist fortress, but only at prohibitive costs and by lowering living standards. Better than to bring our own houses in order and stick together as united Europe. In a world of global opportunities and global risks, Europe is our way of ensuring that the risks and benefits of globalization are shared and that its rules are shaped in a way that takes into account our values and our interests. For in such a world, not a single European country qualifies for the global Premier League. As individual countries, we are middleweight at best. Only by pooling our resources are we powerful enough to compel others to cooperate with us on an equal footing. And by acting together, we can be a much more effective force for good in the world.